Hey guys, um, just making a quick video, give you an update and a part two to my resto mod of my Tamiya Ta02. Um, Again, this car, um, I did the math and I forgot what it was, but this car is over 30 years old. But we did we did some mods to it, and now I'm gonna show you what happened and how it came out. Well, first thing you can notice from the last video, it no longer has that chassis in it. This is the stock chassis that comes with the Ta02. It's it's actually pretty rigid, so it's not really a bad thing to have the tub chassis. And believe it or not, the tub chassis does have a lot of room. With the servo being here, you can put stuff on top of the servo. Matter of fact, that's where I had the speed controller uh, for the car for a long time. It sat right on top of the servo right here. This is also free real estate too, a lot of it actually. So you can utilize this piece. This is another good place for the ESC. Well, that was the first thing that we did. The other thing you could tell here, we got the carbon fiber chassis. This is not a Tamiya chassis. This is the Yao Racing's chassis. I like it. It's pretty cool looking. It reminds me of the Tamiya chassis. Now, let me give you a little what I had to do to fit this chassis. Well, yeah, Racing thinks, I shouldn't say the word think, that's the wrong word. It assumes that you're just replacing the fiberglass plates or chassis plates with these carbon fiber ones. Same with the uprights for the shock towers. So it doesn't give you any of the hardware. So this battery tray, this little peg here, I don't know if you can see it, but the little metal plate right here for the front shock tower. These were all stuff that I had to add myself. Same with all the hardware to attach the shocks front and back and the body post. You have to, and matter of fact, all the screws. I had to take a trip to the hobby shop and get. Oh, sorry about the scratches. I took it out. I should have left it the first run for when I get the body for it, but I was impatient. But anyway, I had to go to the hobby shop and get some screws for this body, for this chassis, to put it in. And like the Tamiya chassis, it's cool because it has adjustable battery position. You can put it either in this furthest position I have here, or you can push it all the way up. I don't know if you can see the one, and there's another screw up under here position, and it's the same thing on this other side. There's two screws here where you can and up here where you can move the battery up closer. Um, so yeah, I got the new chassis on. I'm liking it. I had to do something kind of nifty with the steering because again, it didn't give you all the hardware that you need. So I bought a lot of the hardware from eBay, but the guy that I ended up buying the parts from, um, he wanted a ridiculous price for the steering arm, the bell crank, and the post for the front steering. So I had to come up with something from I had to use the one that's in the old chassis. But it's smooth. I have a piece of brass like tubing in here for kind of like a bushing. Same one here, so it makes it smooth, and it takes away some of the play. There's still some. That is one thing with the Ta02 cars. You got to deal with the play, and you would think that the play would make them handle horrible, but these cars are brilliant handling cars. I mean, these cars, if it wasn't for the fact that it's a going on, wow, it's getting close to 35-year-old design. This is a awesome handling car. Yeah, they're very easy to drive. They're very forgiving. They handle awesome. Um, but I think in the past, even back in the day, they didn't really get lot of justice and respect because of the fact that they were Tamiya. And back in the '90s, Tamiya didn't really have a pro level race car. You know, they were known back then for making um, beloved. I mean, they make tons of beginners kits and entry level kits that people to this day love. I would love to have a Tamiya, believe it or not, a Tamiya Grasshopper. I just never pulled the trigger to buy one, or even a big wig or a boomerang, or shoot, if I want to go into the dream world, something like the Toyota Hilux from the '90s, not the early 2000 one. Or even the Porsche 959 that they made back in the day, or everybody wants the Avante and the Astute. But you know those cars people still want because they were good for what they were, and the Astute and the Avante were their first real attempts at making like pro level cars, and they were good. They handled. I know the Avante. I knew a guy that had one when I was a kid, and the Avante handled beautifully. It was a fast car. It was a great car, but it was fragile. This kid broke everything, everything on that car at least twice. In the time that I knew he had it, it eventually ended up being a shelf queen because he just got tired of repairing it. But the Astute, on the other hand, was a decent little car. There was a guy at the track that I used to race back in the day, and he had a converted Astute. He had an old Astute that he was using as a road car. He put road tires on it and put a road body on it, and somehow he convinced the guys at the track to let him race in the touring car division. So whatever. Um, but yeah, the other thing that I got to this that was new, I put new tires on and rims. I don't know if these rims will give you a hint to the body that I'm putting on it, but you know, that's coming, and I'm not gonna. I'll let you guys figure it out once I get there. Only thing I gotta say is a Ford. so, so yeah, this is going from an Audi to a Ford. Now, stuff that I still need to do to it. One of the things that the Ta02s were notorious for, and I think it's more for the red plastic and the colored plastic than anything was, they would crack. Like you can see right here, there's a crack in the gearbox here. The front one's fine, but oh, you can't see it right there. But right there, there's another crack in the gearbox. These cars were notorious for having cracked gearboxes because what happened was, and I'm guilty of it too, is that when you have the self-tapping screws in the Tamiya cars, you're not supposed to snug the screws down to their tight so they don't move. You're actually supposed to snug them down to it closes the gaps in the plastic. And you know that's I don't know if that's hard to envision, but you know usually when you're tightening a screw, you tighten it down until it doesn't move anymore, and you tighten it so it's real nice and tight and firm. Well, on the plastic parts, especially these colored plastic pieces, that actually puts a lot of stress on the plastic, and then eventually what happens is it gets a little crack like that. And this being a 30-year-old car, I don't know when I did that, but I did that in the past. And now as of right now, it's not really affecting the gearbox or how the car is driving because, like I said, I took it out this morning. I just drove it up and down the street, and it drives fine. You can't even tell there's a crack there, but I want to replace that because, like I said in the past, I had uh, a few Ta02s and a Ta01, and if that crack gets too big, it starts slipping the gears. What happens is the little bevel gear that's in here on this big spur gear, it starts slipping and it makes a horrible clanking noise, and it's horrible. But that's the next thing I want to do is replace the gearbox housing. The another piece I want to source, and I want to use the actual Tamiya one, if I can find it at a reasonable price. But I want to replace this with the hardened drive shaft. Somebody suggested I should try to make one. I probably could make one. I mean, it's not very hard to make. But I want to try to source the original one. And now, saying that maybe I would make one, what I would try to do if I could, which is never really, not ever talking about it. You guys would be the first one of me thinking of seeing it. It'd be neat to have something like this, to have a actual universal joint right there. You know, so I don't know if that's even possible, but something like that would be really neat. But I don't know. That's getting away from what this whole project was supposed to be. So, yeah, like I said, I want to get the new drive shaft for it. And that would, I think, that and also the shocks that I ordered, the actual shocks that were period correct for this car. These are the low friction shocks with the fluorine coated shafts in them. These are really good. These are like $80 shocks on this car. But I ordered the actual period correct ones, the little red low friction dampers with the little collars instead of the threaded bodies. Now, those were still good shocks back in the day too. I mean, Tamiya makes really good shocks. If you have another car from another brand and you want a good pair of shocks for it, get Tamiya shocks. They work really good. I know people who have Team Associateds or X-Rays or whatever be like, well, no, you can't do that. They're mixing brands. Well, who cares? If it works really good and it makes the car fast, do it. Because trust me, they work really good. Now, the radio system that I'm doing, I'm using my Firma system that I had in it originally. But instead of using the Futaba or my FlySky radio for it, I'm using the Radio Link one for a couple of reasons. This gives me a lot of choices because it's a 6-channel and it has a built-in gyro. So that alone makes the handling even better. Now, this is not going to be a shelf queen, but it's not going to be an everyday runner. So I'm not really wanting to make, again, like a speed demon or anything like that. But yeah, it's coming out. Hope you guys like it, and tell me in the comments what you think about it, and tell me your experiences with a Ta02. I like to hear them. These cars, believe it or not, if you're new to the Tamiya cars, or even in the Ta0 family, from the Ta01 all the way up to their newest one, the Ta08, there's a few of them in that family tree that people just love to death. The Ta02, by far, is probably the one that people have the most fond memories of. The Ta01, not so much, because it's pretty much just car, but the chassis is longer. So the chassis is a lot longer. Because the Ta01 and 2 really came from the Tamiya Manta Ray and the Tamiya Top Force. It's pretty much one of those buggies, but with stubbier arms and a stubbier chassis. But being that the Ta01 has a longer chassis, basically the only thing they did was put stubbier arms on the Manta Ray and call it a day. But yeah, that's one of the cars that people just love the dickens out of. The other one, just to make to wrap it up, because this is starting to get kind of long too. The other car that people love the death out of is the FF01 and the Ta04 and the Ta03. Those cars, by far, in the whole family tree so far, I think have the best following. The FF01 is front-wheel drive. It's pretty much a Ta02, but it's front-wheel drive. It doesn't have a gearbox in the front, and the front gearbox is different. But it uses everything else, like the chassis, the carbon chassis, the suspension arms, everything else is the same. Um, you know, I'm actually doing a bid on eBay to get a couple of these cars. I think there's like 6 chassis in the whole bid. So, and 3 of the chassis are are FF01s. So that's probably, if I win that auction, that's probably going to be my next build, is one of the FF01s, and take all the parts that the guy's going to give me, because a lot of it is just aftermarket parts, and see if I can build a car out of it. And with that, again, being an old car and being in the world of brushed motors and stuff like that, I'm probably just going to put another mild brusher system. I might even put something from Amazon in it, since I'm not going to run it a lot. So yeah, here you go, guys. This is part 2 to this video. The next part, I will have the body, and we'll put it together, and then we'll take it out and drive it. I plan to do a little video of it driving. So talk to you soon.